Welcome to the Soul Space. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Kim.
And these true life stories are brought to you to inspire growth, healing, and positive changes.
Enjoy. Right, welcome, Will. Thanks for coming on. So what I tend to do at the start is just explain a little bit about what the Soul Space is about.
Yep.
So what we do, it's pretty much people's soul stories. So we like to get people on who we think are authentic. They've got real soul stories. And it's just a bit where you explain a little bit about your story, any challenges you've faced, how you've faced them challenges, what tools you've used, and then we tend to go into a little bit about what you're doing now. So I just want to briefly share a little bit, just to honour you really as well, why I wanted you on. So I think we've worked in similar circles, and I do know a little bit about yourself, but I don't know loads about your story.
Cool.
But I like that to come across, because otherwise sometimes when I've interviewed people I know a lot about, it's like you assume the listeners do.
Yeah.
So sometimes I like the natural flow of, I don't really do lots of research or look into it. But I always find with yourself and what I've seen, it's just like I see you, what you're doing. And what I mean by that is like I see the passion, like the bigger picture, I think, of what you do.
Cool.
And I think you've got a really good balance of what you do around, exercise, but you're also looking at people's mental health, their recovery as a whole, embodiment. I like how you do it.
I hear that.
Spiritual side of it. And I think it's showing people as well. I think people misinterpret spirituality sometimes, and they think it's all about how you dress and using the crystals and
I hear that.
hugging trees. And like I say to people, I love a tree hug. That's me. But I always laugh. I said the other week I was doing some breath work, and I had my big shamanic drum out, and I was channeling, all this stuff was going on. And I looked down and I started laughing to myself, because I was like in my Under Armour tracksuit, and I was like, oh, it's funny. But I was like, this is the real, this is the way it is.
Yeah, man.
And we're around here, like where we've been brought up. I'm like, I'm from a counsellor, say, these are my people, this is who I want to work with.
Yeah.
I want to be relatable. So as much as I would love, and I will go out and planning trips out to the jungle, and I love all that side of stuff. The reality is, this is where we are, and we've got to be grounded here, and we've got to be relatable to people and real, really. And that's what this stands for, the Soul Space. To me, it's like real stories. 'Cause I think we can only meet people where we've met ourselves a lot of the time. And I'm talking a lot now, so I'm gonna let you do a bit of talking. But yeah, wherever you want to start, really, Will. But just a little bit about your backstory, where some of it began, really.
Yeah.
It's a hard one when it's like,
Yeah,
where
when
to
it's that
start? 'Cause
open,
it's a
that's-
lot of stuff
I was about
to
to say,
talk
yeah,
about.
Yeah,
But make it juicy. We want to hear all the pain, all your pain and suffering first.
I hear you, man. And sometimes that's what comes. I think my life weren't that painful, but there has been pain in it. You know what I mean? There has been pain in it, man. I did some work. That's just where I'm going to do some shadow work. Do you know shadow work?
Yeah, I've just, it's
so
my new friend.
Yeah. I've been involved in some shadow work. I've gone to some shadow work retreats over the weekend. About 2-3 years ago. And it was like looking back at me going through life in Wood End, Canley, in these like difficult areas, like, can I say? Ghettos. I don't even know if they're ghettos. What do you call them in the UK?
I don't know.
What do you
We
call
do say, I used to just counsel us.
Just a council estate. Yeah. Like the ends.
Yeah.
I guess grew up in the ends, and that it's not easy for any young lad growing up in the ends, growing up around that chaos, that difference, the differences, trying to like navigate the differences, navigate how to be a man, navigate how to make money, navigate the natural struggles. I think some of those areas just make it easier to turn toxic. And when I say that, I think that was my story. I was a good lad in a neighbourhood of good people that were just confused. And I started to get confused as well. You know what I mean? And that made me do bad things and look for the wrong things, man. Canley, man, that's where I first started. And when I think of Canley, all I think is fighting in the alleyways, racism, my brothers and my dad fighting all the time. My dad was strict, he was fighting, and he beat up my brothers a lot to try and make them follow their path. And I can just remember me always fighting as well. And the neighbours and other neighbours. My brother was always fighting neighbours and other people. And it was all down to racism most of the time. Someone calling you nigger, someone calling you this, someone calling you whatever type of words they were calling you. I just having to like, naturally, that's what we do. We fight then.
Yeah.
And that being like the backbone of me. Like, I think that's probably where some of the like, it empowered me to know that I'm strong. But then it also had a negative effect in the sense that you start to think there's something, I can have that sense that there's something wrong with me.
Yeah.
I'm different and maybe I'm bad or evil by nature, not for doing anything at all.
Yeah.
Just that message. And I think that's the key thing I got from my life story now when I started to change, is that there was a key thing with anybody, whether you're black, white, Asian, red, green, blue or yellow.
Yeah.
If you receive that message that just for being you're bad, you're evil, that has a really negative effect on your sense of self and the way you start to behave in the world. So that was me like fighting. Mum, luckily, good, lovely mum, like she's from Africa, came here, only her and my dad came here. No external family, no extra like family, just them, first generation. So like I didn't have no uncles or aunties to go to, but they luckily like in Africa, they're not poor. And I used to think like, we're poor, I'm African. I didn't even call myself African when I was a kid. I said I'm Jamaican. Because African weren't cool.
Yeah.
Jamaican was cool. You know what I mean? Jamaican, they like all the wagwan, yes, blood, what are you saying? They liked all the language, they liked that stuff. African was just seen as, you don't want to be African. So I didn't used to call myself African. I used to say,
Already, it's like a mask's already going up.
yes.
Already,
yeah.
And we spoke about this at a retreat I was at this weekend when we spoke about shadow work, and this guy was saying this can go back to rooted in the tribes. If you didn't fit in, you were outed.
Yeah.
So he said a lot of men, that is still comes down in our ancestry, that still sticks in your brain.
Yes.
So people will try and fit in and condition themselves.
Yeah, that's it, man.
It's hard to, and that's where a lot of the shadows start back then. Because you'll be conditioned and you're told that, like you say, fighting's the way. That's how you're a man. That's how, and it starts to build. So it's interesting that from that age you'd already trying to say, so it's like pretending we're something we're not already.
Yeah, from a young age, trying to pretend I'm something I'm not. So that says there's a level of shame. You know what I mean? There was a level of shame inbuilt in me that I didn't even I did recognise. I can't lie. I was aware of it, but I didn't know how to cope with it. And part of my story, I was just told, do better. No matter what, you just got to outshine, outwork, outdo anybody to just be okay. That's not even to be great, just to be okay.
Yeah.
You've got to outwork and outdo everybody just to be okay.
A lot of pressure.
Yeah, so there's a kind of a lot of pressure, man. And then we moved, my mum moved, great mum, dad, smart, said wealthy in Africa, they're not poor. My mum doesn't come from a poor family. You know, I didn't even see that. She comes from a family in Africa that are well off. You know what I mean? Granddad is a wealthy man. So they had, how can I say, they had values that were more middle class, not taking anything away from the lower classes.
No.
You know, they had values that were reading books, education, all these things are more important than wearing Nike trainers or PlayStations and all that stuff. They had values that your education, your schooling is more important than all that sort of stuff. You know what I mean? So they trying to move me to better areas. We moved to Bar Green. I don't know how much better that is, but it was. We moved to a estate, and that estate was multicultural.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was a very multicultural estate. So that was nice. Like, from there, that wasn't really fighting about race. That was just fighting. Still racism popped up now and then, but it was just genuinely fight with just fighting as young lads, travelling, playing. It was good, man. You know, I think that's one thing I remember, the love from other people's mums bringing me up.
Yeah.
My mum worked a lot. My dad left when I was young, about 5. Didn't come back for about 5-6 years. So my mum was a single mum. And we were left to do whatever we want. Not by her fault, but just by the circumstance. Do you know what I mean? We were left to do whatever we want. So I was left to do whatever I want. So I just went out playing, out on the streets till late night. And, you know, I talk about trauma sometimes with people, and I say, being raised by other kids is traumatic.
Yes.
Like, kids raising kids is traumatic because kids have rules. They don't love you unconditionally.
Yeah.
And parents sort of love you unconditionally. Kids don't love you unconditionally. They will out you for anything, any difference that you sort of spoke about. They will out you. Like, oh, you ain't big enough. You ain't strong enough. Look at the shoes you're wearing. You're getting bullied. You're getting cussed. So it's very fucking anxiety provoking. You know, you're very fearful.
Yeah.
Very anxiety provoking from that age. So I was just like, what? I didn't have the nicest clothes, but I'm fast. I'm strong.
Yeah.
I'm all right. So I've had these assets to help me get through that stuff. And people didn't really want to try it with me because I could defend myself, but I was fast and I was quick, and I had all these good qualities that made me seem like, okay, you fit in, you're all right, you're all right, man. So that was just the chaos of it. My expectations of life, my dad not about, trying to figure out how to be a man, getting these messages that I'm kind of bad, then sort of enjoying that message I'm bad because it gives me power. In the streets, being black is an asset. It's like I'm high in the pecking order.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like you should be bad naturally. Like you should be hard naturally. So on road, it's like, sound. I'll just walk around and people are like, oh God.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I just fell into that trap, man. Naturally, dad's not about, mum's not about much. And selling drugs and weed and, that stuff just came naturally to me from about 12. I started selling drugs. It just all fell in place.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It all fell in place. And my dad came back from Africa when I was about 9, and he was an alcoholic. He lost a lot of stuff, and he became an alcoholic. And that was a sketchy time in my growing up period because, like, it's like, who's this guy? I don't know who he is no more. Don't really remember him. I was 4 or 5 when he left. Comes back at 9 or 10. Alcoholic, dodgy, aggressive, kind of emotionally blanked, spiritual, chanting, like, into that African culture of conjuring spirits and chatting to things, and he was very into that. He's into some stuff, man. And it was scary.
Yeah.
It was scary for me, and I didn't really want to go home, so I just stayed out more. You know what I mean? I stayed out the house more, went more into the rougher areas because I was getting older. You know what I mean?
There's no safety net then.
Yes. Yeah, no safety net.
There's no home, is there? No safety net. So you start creating your own. So then walls come up even more because it's like, right, I'm looking lone wolf type thing.
Yeah, that's it, man. And I think I can walk over, but there were difficult times, man. Because you don't have no one to talk to, no one to really speak to. But football and these little things I had, other people's parents, like being a bit in my safety zones, they kept me like sane. They kept me just like being a good lad. But when I weren't at football, I was in Wood End, messing around, drugs, all that sort of stuff, hanging around with lads that maybe didn't have those little safety buffers. So I was getting mixed up with stealing cars, robbing things, and I was generally not really really bad lad.
Yeah.
I was just trying to figure out how to be
Try and fit in.
how to fit in.
Yeah.
How to be a man. What looks acceptable, man.
And I don't think it's like what you said earlier. When you talk about traumas and things, it's when something starts to become, it's just your life, you don't realise. So like you were saying earlier, sometimes before you start doing the shadow work or looking at stuff, I've had people sit and they've said to me, I haven't had any trauma really or pain. And then we'll get chatting, or the more I work with them as a client, this stuff will come out and I'm like, what do you mean you had no pain? And they went, yeah, but that's just life. That was my upbringing. And I'm like, yeah, but it's like it becomes your life. So it's like you said earlier, I didn't think I had a lot of pain, but there's already in that short time is quite a lot of pain. You know what I mean? It's dad going, coming back, you having to be out on the streets on your own, really. But for you, at first, before we start looking at these things, you're like, well, that was just my upbringing. Ain't that bad? That was just life.
It's just life.
So when it becomes your life, sometimes we don't see it as a trauma. Because you're like, yeah, but that's just... And then sometimes the more you start talking to other people and see that your upbringing or certain was quite different, you're like, oh, actually, that was pretty tough.
Yeah.
You don't realise it at the time because you're just surviving, survival mode.
You're surviving. Yeah. And that's it, man. That's massively said. And I think the event is not the issue. It's what happens with, like Gabor Maté talks about what happens within you. And a lot of time what happens within you is about you having that safe place, someone to talk to or someone to help you soothe through any difficult situations you have in life.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because my dad dying wasn't even traumatic for me. It didn't feel like a massive event. he died, but I didn't know him. She was like, okay, he died. But him not being there for like, from that on, that feels more traumatic.
Yeah.
And never talking about it and never having no conversations around his death or nothing, just disappeared.
So how long after he come back did he pass? Well,
He passed like
how old was
about
you?
3 years. Yeah, about 3 years after he came back, he passed. I was about 12, I was 12, man, at that time when he passed. You know, it was painful, but I said, it doesn't feel like trauma. It's more like the way it's just nothing.
Yeah.
He's gone. Carry on.
But that's a trauma in itself,
Yeah,
not
that's-
feeling it, not
Yes.
getting to grieve.
Yeah.
Because that shows how sort of switched off you'd sort of become, because it's like you'd already grieved him when he left before, the child. So sometimes even that's a trauma in itself, because sometimes we could start questioning, like, I should be more upset. This isn't a normal reaction. Why? It's like it's confusing on its own. And I think one thing that the Western world does really badly is grief. We're just not taught about it at all. It's just, we spoke about this on a couple of podcasts, and I met a tribe a few months ago and we were talking to them about it, and they were like, you in the Western world, it blows their mind. Like, they're like, you're really bad at grief. Like, you don't talk about it. You don't, even after the person passes, it all becomes very, and this ain't every family, so I can't say this. Where I was from, it was all very dominated by alcohol. It's like, oh, you're going to have the funeral, you'll get drunk. Even with the Irish, the night before, you have to wake. When we first lose someone, people gather in the pub. Because, you know, it was all very, it's like you drink through your pain. And I don't feel like we sit as communities and actually, like, honour the person sometimes properly and talk and educate our children. That, and then everyone's like, we got to organise a funeral, I've got to be the strong one. We go in autopilot of, like, organising it. And it's very, like, people don't know what to say to you. When you see someone and they've lost someone, if people will cross the other side of the road to avoid you. And I then think for children as well, from a very young age, it's like, oh, I don't want to upset my mum and dad by telling them I'm still upset. I've had a lot of people that have said to me things like, oh, when my brother passed, we weren't allowed to cry in front of my dad. And, you know, people will share things like that, and I'm like, that's not good. And then we're always told, like, people will say, oh, I don't know why I've cried about them today. It's been 2 years. You know, as if there should be a time limit. And it's like, actually, it's okay to, like, be still missing people. Or if we've blocked our grief out, like I know for me, because when my friend first passed, I blocked it out with alcohol. Obviously, then when I gave up the drink and took the drink away, all that emotion come back. I hadn't dealt with it. So it was a big thing. So to some people, they might have thought, well, you should be a bit more better about this because this happened 2 years ago. It's like, well, no, because I didn't deal with it then.
Yeah.
So you gotta sit with it now.
Yeah,
So
I hear that.
I can imagine as well, as a young child, it was like, if you didn't deal with it, that's something years later you've probably suppressed and had to sit with now, even when you do your shadow work. And
Yeah, I had to make sense of it. I had to make sense of it with my relationship with my dad, you know, how that was. I did an ayahuasca. I did an ayahuasca thing a few years ago, and in that ayahuasca, my dad came to me and I was like, fuck you now. And he was broken. Like, when I seen him, he was broken, and I had to help him up, help him stand. And it was almost like an embodiment of him, like, I am my dad.
yeah,
My dad is in me. If he's broken, I'm broken. You know what I mean? So I had to, like, help him up and show him forgiveness and love and compassion and heal that part of me.
yeah, because that's what you had to show yourself.
Yes,
as well.
because that's
And
what
the
I needed.
grandmother energy will show it like that. It's
Yeah.
what you need. It's a mirror, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's quite deep actually. That it showed it in that way to you. You've
Yeah.
actually had to pick him up.
Yeah. Yeah, I had to pick him up, man. But it was like he was in me. He was like, I had to pick him up and I was screaming, ah!
Yeah.
Ayahuasca stuff is different.
Yeah.
And I was screaming, I was like, wow. I was like, that's powerful, man. I was like, okay then. So that's something that I wasn't aware of that has been sitting in me for you said, like, all these years. I was like 30, I was about 32 when I did that. My dad died when I was 11, so like 20 years of my life. There's been this shadow,
Yeah.
this pain, this grief, this part of me that's been abandoned.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That feels broken, and I've been walking around with that for years. And in that ayahuasca trip, that's when I learned I had to pick that part of myself up, in a sense, and was a part
Give
of
it love.
Yeah, give it love. Part of embodying and forgiving that part of myself, which took the form of my father in a sense, man. And when I think about that part of myself, that's like when I was growing up, fighting and violence was important, but I didn't like it. You know, and I was kind of known as a, can't say, I was known as like kind of a top boy, like, yeah, I was known as a top boy because my brother had a good name. So I kind of had that natural, people like projected my brother onto me. So I was kind of, they thought, oh, if he's like that, he's got to be like that. So I sort of tried to live up to that image. But I never liked violence.
Yeah.
And I think I didn't like violence because I seen the violence in the home, and I'm the youngest. So I seen the aftermath of the violence.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was just watching all the time. So I'm observing, I'm seeing, cool, this is a fight, yeah, wicked. But then are you seeing that guy cry, lock himself in the room, be sad?
Yeah.
You've just beat his ass and now you fucked off in your own rage. I'm seeing this guy sitting there crying, you know, sad, you know, like, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Seeing that in my brother, seeing that brother. And even my dad beat my brothers up and they left. And my dad is sitting in the living room, he's struggling. You know what I mean?
Is that they left for that guilt?
They left with that guilt, yeah. And my dad was pretty loving towards me because I was the youngest. You know, like the youngest, if you try to correct your mistakes.
Yeah.
Parents are learning on the way through,
Yeah.
aren't they? So like, my dad was pretty loving towards me, but he wasn't the same to my brothers. Or he didn't come across as love. You know, like that's what he knew, what he thought was best. So that was kind of, I didn't like violence, but I thought I had to be violent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I thought I had to be violent. And any time I shied away from a fight, anytime I didn't do what I thought I should be to prove I'm that guy, I fucking beat myself up over it.
Yeah.
And that's when I started to drink more and become more chaotic. You know, when someone tried to rob me, threaten me for money, and I didn't fight about it, I just, you know what, I was younger, and like guy was meant to be a really quite a hard guy, so I said, yeah, I'll give him some money to pay him off. 50 quid, so I don't want to get in this trouble. You know, I could have called my brothers, I could have got, round up the troops. Man, look, I don't want to make this into a thing it didn't have to be. You know what I mean? So I gave him a little, he wanted a big P. I said, you're mad, I ain't give you that P. Like, I chucked him a little 50 quid, like taking the piss. But now I look back at it, I should have never done it. But I get why I tried to do it at that age.
Yeah.
Where I was at that time. I get why I tried to do it. But now looking back at it, I was like, I shouldn't have done that. I should have just not gave him nothing.
Yeah.
And let it ride out. But I'm happy I did it because it made me the guy I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if I turned into the guy that started to fight all the time, I wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be here. I'll probably be enjoying that gangster life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I would have been successful. I would have got success from making bad decisions.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's the worst thing to do.
Yeah. And it's sort of sometimes if we don't hit them sort of rock bottoms and have these lessons on the path, we're never going to be the people we were put here to be.
Yeah.
And who we're going to be.
Yeah.
If them choices go a little bit different.
Yeah.
So even though for you, struggles still come after that, you also can look back at that moment and be still like, wow, I'm glad I didn't make that choice. It could have all gone like very differently.
Yeah.
Because as well, if things are going great and we've got power, and be it false power or not, we don't go looking. You don't go looking for ayahuasca ceremonies. You don't go looking for recovery because you've got everything. Exactly. It's like life's good. It's okay. Yeah. It's when it's not good that you start thinking you've got to hit them moments where you're like, I need something more here. There's got to be more to life. You need that bit of fight start happening. And again, like we spoke about earlier, you only meet people where you've met yourself, and you can only lead people to places you've been. Yeah. So with no lived experience, like for me, I love studying things. I love talking therapies. I love it all, psychology, all of it. But to me, the main thing has to be lived experience in life a lot, because without it, some of us, and I've been guilty of it myself, where I've got that caught up in sometimes by training and studying and reading that many books that it got to a point, okay, I'm reading all these books, I weren't actually putting some of it into practice. I was like, knowledge, but it weren't coming from the most authentic place. And although, again, anyone that, go and get your masters, get your degrees, but sometimes what happens there is you can be the most academic person in the room, but you haven't actually looked at your own shadows.
Yeah, definitely.
So you can have a wounded masculine or a wounded feminine trying to sort of give you advice sometimes, and sometimes it's like you need that bit of, the beauty is to have a bit of both, really,
The
balance
isn't
that
it?
stuff out
Yes,
if you
the
can.
balance.
But for me personally, it's got a lot of it has to be from more lived experience. Then you bring all the rest in. It's great. Knowledge is, power, but it's also, for me, it has to be that lived experience, which I believe you only get a lot of the time through a lot of struggles and challenges. It's just the way it is.
I hear that.
So it's not like saying, oh, if anyone's not had loads of pain, you can't go and help people. I'm not saying that. But in life, it is a school. We're here to have lessons. Our soul's here to learn. And unfortunately, that you do have to sit with a lot of stuff and go through some things to grow. But it's how it's how we use our pain. I chose for a while to hold on to my pain. Through drinking alcohol, I was holding on to it. And me and Taylor had a podcast the other week, and it was the first time I'd said it out loud, and I actually sat and was like, wow, I never actually realised that. Like I said to him, I was holding on to the pain because that was all I had left of my friend that passed away. And I was like, I've never looked at it that's what I was doing. Because it was like, if I heal this, I was thinking like I'm letting her go. And I think a lot of people hold on to our trauma because that's our story. So sometimes I'd be like, if I'm not struggling around alcohol or I haven't got, who is Kim? It was a bit like that pains, that's my story.
Yeah, I hear that.
So once it's like, but the healing journey don't let you do that anyway because it always throws something else at you.
I hear that.
You get something else done, don't you? You heal one part and they're straight there with another shadow. I love, but now I love it. As hard as it is, it's learning about myself. It's challenging. You have to love the pain, but I look back now and I'm like, oh, that girl was like holding on to that pain and wanted life to be chaotic, really, because it was like, the carnage and everything caused by going out, drinking, and that was sort of like, that was my story. That was who I was. So when you strip that away, I think when you first start going on this journey, whether it's self-discovery, recovery, you sort of have to grieve the old you. Do you find that?
Yeah, massive. Grieving the old you is the story of reincarnation, isn't it? It's this.
Because the new you isn't quite born yet. Sometimes
exactly.
it's
the
like,
story.
This is scary.
It's the cycle of day and night. It's that cycle, isn't it? And I only realised that through spiritual programs. Like I didn't realise that death, rebirth. Almost you have to go through your death, and sometimes death is painful to be reborn. Yeah. And you have to let go of it to be reborn. Otherwise, you stay like a zombie. Which is when you said that was me, man. All that pain, that grief, that anger, that hatred. Who am I going to be without that? I need that to be the man I need to be.
Yeah.
How can I be a gangster, hard guy without all that pain? I need to find more pain. I need to punish myself. I need to whip myself, lash myself with all these things. All those failures, those mistakes I've made. Keep punishing myself. Keep pushing myself harder. And that's what led me to alcohol and drug addiction as well.
Was yours alcohol first?
Mine, I had a drinking problem. You know what I mean? I didn't know it was addiction. But when I look at my story, and only through being in recovery, I looked at my story, I was drinking from 16, but then probably like 17, 18, I was drinking 5, 6, 7 times. I was drinking like 5, 6 times a week. I had a lot of money, so I was going out drinking. So it didn't look like I had a problem.
Yeah.
But I was going out drinking to block out the pain and to also face the pain.
Yeah.
At the same time, trying to be this hard guy. Like, I fight better when I'm drunk, so I'm going to drink more. I can't be that guy that paid that guy off money again. I need to be mad. You know what I mean? And inviting more pain into my life.
Yeah.
Unnecessary pain. I think that's what's come through my story. It's like unnecessary.
Yeah.
I'm inviting unnecessary, stupid, foolish pain into my life because I've got this resentment with myself. I've got this resentment and not just resentment, this misunderstanding of life.
Yeah.
So I don't understand I didn't understand the spiritual side of life. No one's educated me on that.
Yeah.
And I wasn't willing to listen.
Yeah.
That's even more of a one. My mum would talk about like religion and that. People talk about it, but I'm not listening.
Yeah.
You don't make it make sense.
Yeah. It's like when someone's still in the chaos of it, It's definitely is. You're talking on, and even sometimes, you know, in general, like it's you've got to be open to this stuff, and if you know, it has to be in any. I always call it divine timing, whatever people call it, but it has to be on for that type of journey. It has to be when you're open and you're willing and you're willing to listen. But if not, someone can give you the best speech in the world, and it's like you're not listening. Obviously, extreme ceremonies like what you do, well, you're listening then. You could try and not listen and battle, but you ain't winning in that one. But obviously, that's very intense situations that, you know, not everyone's ready for that stuff. But there's also, I find, again, like I was saying earlier, with a spiritual journey, it doesn't always have, I think, like I said, people think it has to happen overnight, or there has to be these really deep practices. It doesn't happen like that. For me, anyway, and from a lot of people I've watched, you just start. I would say to people, just start, and then the path, it will find you. But it doesn't happen overnight. Like I remember when I first started doing mirror work, affirmations, I'd be laughing at myself. I'd be like, this ain't for me. I remember my first breathwork session being a bit of a struggle. I used to be out in the park and I would pretend I had like my headphones on when I was meditating. Now I'm walking around park with my shoes off, grounding. I don't care. But that didn't happen overnight. I was very much cared what everyone thought. So I would say to people, it doesn't happen overnight, but you just need to start looking. That's it. I said, you just look, be open, surrender to it a little bit, and the people come in. The path comes in, people find you, and you find your own way with it, because everyone's completely different. You know, and I think your practices change. Mine was obviously very, at the start, Reiki and my crystals, which I still love all that, but it's very much changed now and evolved on. And then I think it evolves as you change as well, because then mine become all about breath work and boxing. But then when I'd done some shadow work, I realised why I couldn't be in my feminine energy, and why I had to be in my masculine. And starting to realise that made sense of why I'd always been more comfortable working around men, why I was in that masculine, forceful energy, and why I found things like dancing and yoga, like, oh, that ain't me. No, I just didn't want to express myself in that way. So once I'd healed some of them shadows, I was to my mentor, you're going to make me dance, eh? And then the more we spoke about it, he said, weren't you a dancer when you were a kid, Kim? And I went, yeah. Do you know what? I was. Before life happened, I was very comfortable in that. But again, looking at doing the shadow work made me realise that. And then that was when I started to express myself more through dance, and I started to soften and be kind. So then now my practices, I'm trying to move into a little bit more, you know, martial arts, dancing, yoga. So I think that as we evolve, they change anyway, our practices. But yeah, a little bit back to where you were at then. So sort of 16, 17. So that's when it was like drinking every day.
Yeah, you're talking about evolving. My story was evolving. The pain was getting more, man. And what's coming to my head now is just people I used to buy drugs off, like big amounts of drugs, going to pubs with them, and then them turning on me, getting bottled a few times, getting into a scuffle with them in the pub, and thinking, what the hell is this? You know, like, these guys that, like, I've been loyal, bought this food off you, all these things, and then you bottle me, are you mad? Like, what's going on here? You know, and not knowing how to make sense of that with race. These guys are like, not knowing how to make sense about, is that about race, or what is this? What's this thing? What is that about? Or is it just about money and pride, and you know? And then from those days, that's when I started to retreat from society. You know, the more things that happen to you as you're going through your journey, for me at that stage, you know, like, I made a decision to retreat. I don't like people.
Yeah.
People scare me. People are unpredictable, they're untrustworthy. So I isolate. My circle gets smaller. Everything gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and I'm putting myself in more pain. And then I'm drinking more. Do you know what I mean?
And that feeds off our isolation. So
That
it
feeds
all
off.
starts
Yes,
going.
you're in the cycle and you can't even see it. But that's what's happening. I'm losing my sense of self. I'm losing that sense of self, you know, and I was just isolating. isolating. And luckily, I went to jail. I was about 20 to 21. I went to jail, and all my life was in tatters around before then. Like, because I was isolating and starting to buy into and believe I'm weak and I'm not good enough, things were getting robbed, friends were robbing me, everything was going missing. Because now I'd given up. You know what I mean? I'd given up. I said, yo, listen, like, I just want to make it through the day. I don't care. As long as I've got a bit of money, if that's going missing, who cares? Whatever. I'll just make it back and I'll just crack on. Whatever. I'm just going to just keep on hustling and shuffling and moving through things. You know what I mean? And that was painful. I went to jail. Luckily, I went to jail, because if I didn't go to jail, I probably would have went mad.
Yeah, it's
You know what I
actually
mean?
a blessing.
It was a blessing. Give me a break from life, man. So I went to jail. Come out of jail, and I said, I've got to change. I've got to stop this. And then I went for the almost the American dream, or the dream aside, like Mrs. Wife, house, kids. When you get all those things, you'll be all right. So I went around collecting those items.
Yeah.
And I wasn't all right. Yeah. I wasn't all right.
But you're still left with self.
Yeah, I was still left with self.
External things, isn't it?
Yeah, I went getting all those things, man, thinking this is going to fix me. Look at that guy over there. He's got a house, missus, and he looks happy, you know, but not knowing he's sad, he's angry.
Yeah.
He ain't got a clue.
Yeah.
So I went around collecting those things, man, and they didn't fix
It's like,
me.
it's beautiful as some of them things are, having children in partnerships, but it's not gonna fix us.
Fix you.
And you can't, I think, until you've got that, your self-worth's up and you've got that love for yourself, you can't give it out. Because it's not even that you can't give it out to people, you can't sometimes understand why they want to give it back. So you're like, why does this person love me? Because I ain't worth this. It's like a vicious cycle. And again, I would say to people, like, relationships are our biggest teachers as well. Matters of the heart are your biggest lessons. I said, but when you're having them lessons, it's always a mirror straight back at you. It's like you draw in where you're at the time, I find a lot, and you project on each other, and it's till you've got that relationship with self, it's always going to be a struggle, I find. If I look back now, like I always used to say, I always get with men or find men that need rescuing. No, you didn't. You went looking for that. And you were also, that suited my narrative, because then I got to be the dominant woman, and I was quite, again, comfortable in that masculine energy. Yeah. But if I'm not being a feminine, you're not giving a man a chance to be. So really, no bloke could stand a chance, really, because I wasn't being in my vulnerable, I wasn't in my feminine energy. So you're feeding into that. And I didn't want to look at my own stuff. So it was very easy to be the one that I'll help everyone, I'll rescue, I'll save you, and giving all that love out. And people are gonna take it, and they're gonna. But really, as well, I think the harsh reality I had reality checked is that people haven't asked for this stuff. Like I would set these expectations up, which always leads to you having resentments. But that's because these people, you've set the expectation up, and I'd be like, I can't believe that person treated me like that when I gave them this, and it's like. Yeah, but did they ask for it? And when I remember my mentor said that to me once, did they actually ask you to do that though? And I'm like, no. And it's like, oh no. I was doing that because actually I was the external validation I was getting back. I was liking that. That's feeding my ego. So it's like that person actually weren't asking to be saved. I'd like tried to step into that role. And then when I would always find myself when a relationship ended, it was like that loss of self, like it's codependency, which I didn't even realise probably to the last year or so that I had that harsh reality check that I was quite codependent. I never thought I was. When that got short, I was like, more shadow work. But I was like, I can see it now though. Like I wouldn't know sort of who I was when I work in my work role, helping people or take you out of a relationship. Again, it's you're left with that self, aren't you? And I was like, I don't know who I am now without that. And it's crumbling. So I had to realise now, I've generally got to a place where you've got that much self-love and inner work that it's like when you're in relationships now, great if it works, but if it don't, I wouldn't crumble either. it's like that's because I know who I am on my own as well, and I like my own company. I like who I am, and I want to turn up in my relationships now as the best version of myself. And haven't always done that in the past. And it's that whole, I think, you point one finger at someone, you got three fingers pointing back.
Yes.
I used to love to tell people they were in their ego whilst being very much in my ego.
I love that saying.
You're working in your ego, and they're like,
free
my
back at me.
ego
Yeah.
says. So I'm like, oh man, yeah, you have to look at that. But I think it's sort of a rite of passage, isn't it, though, that we look for relationships and the family. And, you know, I was like, once I have my degree, my work will all fall into place. Once I do this, I always travelled around because I always thought the next place I went was where I'm going to meet someone there and it's all going to fall into place. I was just running. And it was very easy for me to be the party girl in Tenerife and in Australia because everyone was running and everyone was a party girl, or party lad. So no one was pointing out my drink issue because everyone drank every night. So it's who we're around, and I got to hide from that for a lot of years. And then you come back, it's the next place it'll work out. You know, next relationship it'll work out. So we're always sort of looking for that, I think, and it doesn't work, does it?
Doesn't, yeah. That's when you're saying that. That's just like that's the power of addiction. It's like people often think addiction's around drug use. Drug use is a symptom, is the manifestation of addiction. Addiction is any excessive attachment to anything outside yourself that you can't let go of, even if it's causing you harm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And when you said that, that's a bit like my relationship. My relationship was kind of toxic because it was coming from a place of neediness, not really
place
love.
Of lack, yeah.
Yeah, a place of lack, not really love. You know, and I didn't realise that, so I didn't really know. So and I'm a fixer. Like, I was like, oh, this girl, okay, she's cool by herself. I'm going to try and stay with her and fix her. And even when I wanted to separate with her, she threw a massive tantrum. Oh, woman, she's quite masculine. You saying, and I'm quite a feminine male. I was always been like aware of people around me, very emotionally aware of everyone, wants everyone else to be good. And I would sound myself out for the benefit of everybody else. You know, very like unity, very feminine in that essence, in that sense. But then my masculine, I destroyed my masculine energy.
Very much in that wounded masculine energy.
Yeah,
back then.
I destroyed my masculine energy. But she was masculine. She will put herself first. Whatever happens, I'm going down this road. This is the way I'm going. She's quite direct. So I try to rescue her and save her, and you know, I try to be the man, and it ended up backfiring on me in a sense. It didn't end up backfiring. It was a blessing because now I used to say it backfired me, but she's a blessing to me because she showed me an element of masculine energy that I needed to see. I think that's part of why I was attracted to her. Yeah. You know, sometimes you're attracted to the things that you lack.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I was like, I like you because you're quite fiery and I need some of that. Yeah. You know what I mean? I need some of that. And she had that fire and I like that about her. Yeah. You know what I mean? But I also hated that about her because I didn't have it. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Like when we get triggered, it's because a lot of the time it's something we want deep down. You know, if we say someone's like loud and obnoxious, but sort of a bit of it's like, well, I wish I would be a bit louder and stand up for myself. Yes. So again, it's like, we're triggered by what sometimes we actually want.
Yeah.
Like it's that finger.
Yeah, that's it, man. And I was always pointing the finger at her, she was pointing the finger at me, and we're just toxic, man.
But again,
we're just toxic in that
that's
sense.
rite of passage growing up, ain't it, in relationships. These are our teachers and lessons. If anyone gets it down when they're 18, 19, I'm like, well, you must be like, I don't know how you figured it out at that age, because we just don't, do we? You have to go through these stages. And I think, like you say, it's a blessing, a lesson, But I wouldn't even, and people always say, oh, it's a blessing or a lesson. But to be honest, I think they're all blessings. I don't like that way of a lesson because they're still your blessing. Yeah. Like, if you've grown from it, if they've, like sometimes people are supposed to be there. It's like a cheesy saying, but I think it's true. And like some people are there for the chapter, not the whole story. Some people just come in and they leave. It's just the way it is. It's okay. And I'm like, I think for me, I just up until this weekend recently, had to do a lot of work on abandonment this weekend, realised how much issues I had with abandonment. And, you know, they were like, sometimes people, it's okay. They leave, like, let people go. You can't rescue everyone. You can't, people can't rescue you at the time. And some people have been sent in because you've got to be cracked open. Like, I was not being cracked open because I wouldn't get vulnerable. For me, it was like I had to experience some things to get that vulnerability, and then the real healing started for me. And then now, the last 6-7 months, it's like, yeah, I'm in my power. I should be feeling vulnerable as a woman. Like, I sat and done a Cambo ceremony recently, and I said, that felt so different to when I've ever done this before. I found it a real struggle, whereas I used to be like, walking, come on, let's be sick, it's detoxing my body. Just look at it like another process, another practice, like going to the gym. Right, this is this. I know, and people would be laugh like, oh, Kim. But now I look back, I was so in my ego doing that, even with, you know, a plant medicine I should have been respecting. And at the time, I wasn't disrespecting it. That I thought I was being authentic because that's all I knew about myself then. So I was like, yeah, it was difficult, but you just come in and get the job done type thing. Whereas this time I said to the girl, I said, I found that hard. I found it very vulnerable. It was difficult. It was quite painful. And she said, but shouldn't you, as a woman, Kim, feel a little bit vulnerable and find something like that quite difficult? You know, it's a warrior medicine. This is what... And I was like, that's it. That's why I found it difficult this time, because I'm now in my feminine energy a lot more and I've got that balance. I was like, I must have been so far in my masculine before that it was, I still got a lot from it, but it was a very different experience, like nearly a year later. And I was like, oh, right, that's because I'm vulnerable now. And she was like, that's all right, though. That's what you're supposed to be. And I was like, yeah, it is okay to be vulnerable. And I've softened now, and that's come out in how I work with people. I was very intense. I remember the lads, when I used to work at the project, the lads said to me, one of them come up to me afterwards after I'd been doing some shadow work, and they didn't know that's what I'd been doing. And they were like, Kim, can I just say, like, we've always liked your breath work, never had a problem with it, we get a lot from it, but something lately, it was very intense. And I was like, and they went, whereas it's not as intense lately, I'm actually getting a bit more out of it. So something shifted. And I was like, I'm not as intense anymore. I'm still pretty, now it's changed. It's completely different. But I was like, okay. So when I reflected, I thought that's because I've been doing my healing. And that's why it's so important to do your work when we're working in this field or with people. Because I'd projected my intenseness onto others, which weren't cool at the time. I mean, people don't notice, but you notice what it's done. So I was like, okay, that was just a bit of reflection back for me at the time. But again, it's rite of passage, I think, as we learn through. But yeah, so go back. So obviously, relationship wise, and that hadn't worked out. What are you in, like, your 20s now?
Yeah, relationship wise, like my first relationship, even 18, I was a great relationship in a sense. First sort of love, but then she's cheated on me. We split up. I gave me a bit of a complex, and then this was 21, my second relationship. Again, this one I was looking for, like, I need to get out of this drug stuff. And in a sense, when I was in that relationship, I was deep in it still. I come out of jail and I was like, I'm going to give this another crack. I was deep in it, had a chip on my shoulder. That pain, that anger was a bit more rife. And that's when I started to get involved in more like arms and stuff like that. I started becoming willing to push. You know what I mean? When I had the kid, I was like, I've got to make good money. I'm going all in now. I'm really committed into this fucking stupid cause, which I thought was the only way to live. And it wasn't, let me even reframe from that. It's not even stupid. It's just me trying to be a hero. And not knowing what the values and what really a hero looks like. I'm just running off role models I've seen. You know what I mean? Which is off movies. It's ain't real. Movies make it look great, but they don't show you the pain, the trauma, the psychosis. You don't look that bad when you see it on TV, but when you're in it, when I was in it, wow, I was like, this. I didn't know the movie. The movie didn't tell me it felt like this.
This is like the after credits. This is part 2.
The movie didn't tell me it felt like this.
What is it? The outtakes. This is the outtakes they don't put in.
The movie didn't tell me it felt like this. Like, that looked kind of fun in the movie, but this stuff here, not being able to sleep at night, the terrors, the shame, the regret with their partners, with things that you're doing, you know, like, what? It's like, nah, this is not all that it's cracked to be. But I was just trying to be a hero. I was just trying to be a man, and I've got to not shame myself for that. And there's many young lads out there white, black, or Asian, anything. They're just trying to figure out how to be a man, doing the best they've been told with their role models and what the system shows them. Like, we live in a capitalist society where what's most important is making money.
Yeah.
The most thing is any relationship is about what can you do for me? What are you making me? How are you benefiting me?
Yeah.
That was my mentality because that's all I see in the world. So how are you making me money? How are you benefiting me?
Yeah.
Not necessarily what can I give for you, and I'm going to give this to you because I love you and I love the
Yeah.
essence of you being a human being. And you know what? I can top up from putting my feet in the soil.
Yeah.
I can top up from sitting out in the sun for a while. I can get energy.
Yeah.
I can get value from the spiritual source now. So I don't need to get value from my Nike Air trainers or my car and all that stuff no more. So now I've got more space to give to people selflessly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I didn't have that. I didn't even understand that as a concept.
Yeah.
And that's okay because that's where I was then.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's where
Couldn't
I was
do
then.
what you've done now had you not been there.
Yeah, I couldn't do
So
what
you
I've done now if I had not been there. I wouldn't realise that there's a difference. I think it comes with age as well, from my understanding of psychology. Certain ages, you're only able to understand reality to a certain degree.
Yeah.
And with certain life experiences, you're only able to understand reality to a certain degree. The more you experience, the more you age, you start to step into your king or queen, heart center leader energy, and you realise, oh shit, there's more than me trying to get rich.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was what I was in that age. Me trying to get rich, really trying hard to be a man, to provide for my family, thinking I was doing the right thing. But I wasn't. I was working with all negative energies.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was working with all like satanic and bad energies.
Yeah.
Thinking they were good and not even knowing it.
And it's different. Like, I think, like, you have people who always refer to like the alpha male and alpha males, and you know we get it mixed up sometimes. I'm like, the energy you should be going for is divine masculine. That's what you want to be. And people, even when they hear that word, they picture someone being like dead feminine or dead, and I'm like, no. And actually, that's okay as well. So there's men and women. We have the equal parts. It's our masculine side and our feminine side, and we're always in one or whatever. Getting the balance is where the work comes in. It's hard, but I was like, I've been very in my wounded feminine, but I believe now I'm stepping more and closer to that divine feminine now, and it's divine masculine. That's what people aim to be, but I think we aim to be the alpha. People aim to be the alpha male, and that's quite a stereotype, and it's not fair on the male either, because I think that puts a lot of pressure on males to be the alpha. It's like the alpha does have a pack. It's okay to have a pack. And I've got my wolves always with me, my spirit, and I'm like, I'm no alpha male, and I've got my two wolves with me. They don't leave me. But it's not fair on the men either to be like that alpha male. It pits people against each. Again, it's that hunter-gatherer, that tribe. It puts pressure on. Like, you've got to provide. You've got to do this. And it's like, well, you've also got to look after yourself and your heart and heal, and it's trying to do that whilst trying to be what society's told you need to be as a male, and especially, like we say, Western world society. It's difficult.
It's difficult.
And I think that's where a lot of your escapism behaviour comes in, because it's eventually it's too much. So you're going to want to escape your reality, and that's where it all comes in. Drugs and drink. And I think as well, we were speaking about recently, it's like we don't know how to self-soothe. I mean, that's the main problem. You don't know how to regulate your own nervous system. And I was talking in the rehab the other day when working, they were like, why is this breath work helping us so much? Why is it so powerful? I said, because you're learning to regulate your own nervous system. You haven't known how to do that. Because as soon as you felt pain or hurt or your trauma, you've grabbed a drink or you've took a substance, and it's that power exchange.
Come on.
Something, I said, it's that power exchange. And what we also don't understand is sometimes that power exchange can be a relationship, work, alcohol, drugs. It doesn't matter what it is. But if you're giving your power to something to make it yourself feel better, that's an unwanted power exchange. So what we're working towards now, you need to get that power back. You need to remember your own power. Like, we need to put it bluntly, remember the fuck who we are. And we are, most people have an amazing purpose and soul, and we're powerful race. Human
race is powerful.
Yeah, we're power but we need to remember that power, and we've been put here to to learn some tough lessons, and we've forgot it a lot. I definitely forgot my power. And we still will. We are humans. Well, it's human experience. So there's times when you do have that unhealthy power exchange. But I think it's about getting different tools and practices now, like breath work and boxing and, you know, even recovery full stop and your unity and community. That's a tool on its own. That's a people. I always, when I talk to people, like the rehab a lot, I've been calling it like the holistic square. So I'm like, you've got to be in all four corners a little bit. So you've got your mind, your body, your spirit. I said, but people miss out community a lot. Like that's powerful as well.
Massive.
Like I said, a lot of us, we tend to be more in one than the other. So a lot of us will go more into exercise. And I've been there where I've trained every day, but I was punishing my body in a way. It wasn't embodiment. I was training to avoid. And there's a big difference in that.
Come on.
And I think I've seen you talk about that a lot. And that's, again, what drew me towards talking to you. Was like, it's embodiment. We've got to teach people. And that's because otherwise, I watch people in the gym sometimes, and I feel sad for them. And they look amazing. But I can see them, they're punishing themselves. And I've done it with the punch bag. My anger, and but now I'll attack the punch bag, but I'll have certain different vibration and music on. I'll have a different intention, like everything's intention. We should even be, when you're walking down the street, you should have your intentions. But for me, I was punishing myself a bit in the gym, whereas I was like, right, I need to switch this, connecting with my body, embody like certain music, and embodiment, I think. And that's because otherwise, again, it's like if we get injured and we can't go to the gym, we're in a bit of a dangerous place then. Whereas I think if you get the mind, the body, the spirit and your community, if one starts to lack, you can lean on the other. But I think we've all been guilty of being in one bit more than the other. And even with the spiritual thing, I've definitely been, even with that, I haven't been grounded enough sometimes. I've been that in my head and off with the cosmos that I'm walking around. It's like, in reality, we're in a 3D world.
Come on.
We can't always, that's backfired on me as well.
Yes.
So I've had to, even now I have to focus on my grounding because it will go away. It's a gift, having visions and stuff. My meditation, I'll close my eyes with 2 minutes, I'm off the planet. And it serves me well sometimes, but then there's other times it don't.
Yeah, I hear that, man.
I've not been in my body. Just because I think you'll have to come back on, Will, 'cause I think we've got loads to talk about. We have started doing this though. Sometimes we're doing people's story and then get people back on. Because then we've done the story and we've done the stuff.
I hear that, man.
We've got about 10 minutes. But just to briefly to go into a little bit more about where things started to flip for you, change a bit, how recovery come about, just a little bit about what you do now.
So that's it. So after trying to fix myself with all that stuff, externally seeking, trying to be the gangster, trying to walk that path, be a hero, but not knowing what a hero was. You know what I mean? Not knowing but not knowing. Knowing that a hero has to go through some pain and trials and tribulations, but something inside me, intuition, and that's what you said, knowledge. I like when you said that, knowledge, because knowledge is what I know. This is inside me. That's what education is about. It's about bringing out what you know. Not what you think, but what you know. And I said, I know this is not right for me. Like, God, I know I want to be like a good guy, a strong man, a good man, but this does not, there's something not right with this, what I'm doing. You know, and that's like when I come to my rock bottom, relapse, not even a relapse, just using, psychosis was kicking in, devil was chasing me, everyone's trying to kill me, I'm going to kill someone or someone's going to kill me. It was getting that dark and painful. And I'm like, I'm going to push through this. But something was happening, this is not what it's meant to be, Will. I knew this is not for me.
An inner knowing.
An inner knowing that this is not for me. And from that day, I went to rehab. And I changed my life, man. I started to look at my drug addiction, thinking I was going to learn how to use drugs properly. Thinking, okay, drugs are the problem. I'm just going to learn how to use drugs like a normal person. But when I went in there and the love and the stories I heard, it was like, why do I want to even drink or use drugs? I don't need this in my life no more. You know what I mean? And I got that spiritual connection, that sense of love and compassion. I was like, okay then. It's like, this is worth fighting for.
Yeah.
Like this one now, and that's what woke me up. It's like, you know, this is worth moving towards for. This is worth going through pain for.
Yeah.
This recovery journey. Like, I don't need to look for pain. But just trying to walk with whatever spiritual nature, this energy I'm trying to follow, that brings pain in itself. As you said, grieving the old me was painful, man. Letting go of friends, letting go of ways I earn money. I didn't need to go looking for it. It was there already.
Yeah.
Just trying to walk this path is painful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it just came through. Like, okay, then making changes in my life. What have I got to change? Boom, painful one. I had to leave my ex and I just had a newborn kid, thinking that was going to fix me. Like, it weren't working. I couldn't cope. I don't know if I had to leave her, but I did. That's what I chose. Maybe I could have said we need a break for a few months.
Yeah.
But I thought I had to leave. You know what I mean? And if she wants to be with me, she needs to find herself. 'Cause she's lost herself.
Yeah.
I need to find myself. And if we find ourselves and we still choose each other, then we'll be all right.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Then we're meant to be together.
Yeah.
So that was my thinking. It's like, okay, then I've got to leave her, let her find herself. I've got to go find myself. So I left that relationship, and that brought me a lot of pain. You know what I mean? Brought me a lot of pain, seeing her move on.
Yeah.
Sleep with other guys, you know. And I loved her. Like, I didn't even know what love was. But I knew I cared. I loved the family.
Yeah.
I loved the idea of a family and being together and working as a family. You know, and seeing her move on and seeing her make her mistakes. So I've started to get an understanding of addiction.
Yeah.
And understanding that addiction is
that's
just avoiding
painful.
pain.
Yeah.
Addiction's that I'll do things that are stupid just to avoid an uncomfortable feeling. And I keep on making that same mistake over and over and over and over and over and over again. And you said, I can tell you, listen, this is this. But if you're not willing to face that pain, you're not willing to walk through that path.
You got to sit with some uncomfortable stuff
on
this journey. You have, but it's worth it all the time to know yourself and have that relationship with yourself, or to know thyself. It's worth all.
it.
And it's not bringing up anything that ain't already there. Like I always say to people, they say, oh, some of these journeys you do, the breathwork sessions, spiritual, people seem it brings up a lot of stuff. And I said, yeah, but that stuff's already there. You've just numbed it. You've pushed it down. You've drank through it. You've used through it. This isn't bringing anything. You don't do a breathwork session and it suddenly goes surprise and brings... this stuff's already there. You just haven't got that trust yet that your body can actually hold you. Like, it will hold you. And you haven't got that love for yourself yet that sometimes we think we deserve to spend this much time working on ourselves, because it's a bit like... You feel like you're being vain, or, you know, I'm working on myself, I'm working on myself. And it's like, no, actually, you know, it is, you do deserve this, to sit and do your healing and do your work. I mean, you have to get a balance, because I've also been guilty of doing my healing that much that I ain't living. It's all got very, like, I got quite addicted to this journey, you know, like if I'm in a nice bath every day, my anxiety's going to come back, this is going to come back. But again, that all balanced out over time. And it was, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just where I was at the time. But I think, it's a tricky journey, but I would never change but I do understand why people run from it. I do get it.
Yeah, I'm running from it. I'm not fully, like, I get messages, I get intuition. You need to walk that path. I'm like, fucking hell, God. I call it God.
Yeah.
I call that spirit nature. I call it God.
Yeah.
So, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, you should walk that way then. What? Are you fucking mad? I'm not ready for that. Let me do this easier one here.
Yeah.
And then I'll build my way up to that one. Maybe, yeah? Maybe. But let me do this easy one there. And I'm always making steps towards that path though.
Yeah.
That's what I've realised, that I never fully, if I hear something, my heart says, I did a meditation. They said, Will, you need to come to do this podcast. But like, I wasn't too sure. And it was like, yeah. I said, oh, God, you need to do this podcast. I said, I don't know, man. So you need to do this podcast, Will. You need to stand in your essence. This is part of that. And it didn't make sense in a while.
Joe, I spoke to your higher self about it.
I said, yes. Yeah?
I spoke to your higher self about this podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. I said, I spoke to your higher self to give you a nudge.
Yeah?
Yeah. Because I knew in meditation you would come on. And I was like, I think, and I was like, spoke to your higher self, and I thought, he'll get the nudge and he'll come on.
Yeah.
And you did. We can try and run,
Yeah.
but it's fine. I got friends over there.
Yeah, man. I just said, I've got to do it, man.
I'm doing my shadow work. I've got people I know to come and get you. No, but we know. We get out. Oh, I've tried to run many a time, and they take it out your hands, and then I'm like, oh, okay. I'm just going to stay here in my comfort zone. Like, even with me, I'm like, no, I've got breath work down. Breath work's my thing. And they're like, yeah, but and I'm like, oh, and then the next minute I'm like, what? They're like, pick the drum up. I'm like, no, I don't want to pick the drum up. Like, you're going to channel through this drum. And I'm like, I'm not singing and going back. Like, the next minute I'm singing with the drum. I'm like, I remember the first time Adam passed me a drum the first time when we were doing a breathwork session. And he was like, and I went, what do you want me to do with that? And he was like, you know. And he was like, you need to do it in your breathwork sessions, Kim. He's like, you know what to do. Talk to your guys. They'll sort you out. And afterwards, I was just walking around about stupid, you know, in the dark.
Yeah.
The room was pitch black. We're doing this breathwork session. I'm just like out with the drum. And I was thinking, he said to me afterwards, and I went, Adam, I'm not being funny. I said, my guides left. They fucked off. They were like, this is embarrassing. And I said, but again, a year down the line, I'm like, come on, put the drum, get in. But we have to be there ourselves sometimes. You'll get the nudges, but it is important that you don't sometimes get overwhelmed and try and rush this stuff over. It will all work out as it's meant to be.
Yeah.
So for you, did you do it? Was first time in rehab, and then you only
rehab
went
for
once?
3 months. 3 months. Did 3 months in rehab in Bournemouth, man. That was a great change. Role models, seeing people that were tough, like looked like they were road guys, but then they had a big heart, compassionate, loving. I was like, wow, okay, then I don't have to be this guy. There's a new model of what cool looks like. There's a new model what gangster looks like.
Yeah.
That is real.
Yeah.
That's what real looks like, you know. And many lads on the road know what real looks like today. They've got they've got loyalty, they've got courage, they've got honour, but they just got it in all the wrong things.
Yeah. It's the ego's taking over.
Yeah, pointing in the wrong direction. So
the ego's over the heart, isn't it?
Yeah,
at them
man.
Stages, and that sort of gets taken away. I think when you're around, from what I see a lot in recovery and in the rehab when I'm working, that the decisions are coming more from here than up here, and it's like you can feel the love in the room a lot for people. It's same when I go these healing retreats, we'll call it soul family and stuff, and people that haven't been there might not understand, but it is, you feel the love in the room. People have been where you've been. Everyone wants you to do well as well. And you have to, that's a hard part of this journey, I think, as well, when you realise that some people, and even people you care about, they actually don't want you to get better. Because that leaves them having to sometimes look a bit at their stuff. And you start triggering people you love, and that's difficult. Because I found that very difficult. Again, that's part of grieving the old you. It's like, you've got to be very careful, because I remember in my ayahuasca journey and a few things I've done, even in a normal meditation, you're asking to release what no longer serves you, and that can be your whole life. And that's a scary one.
Come on.
That's a scary one when that happens. But people can be blasé. But you know what? Some of my deeper journeys that I also picked my ego apart and taught me as well, because I was very blasé about people's traumas and their addictions and their recoveries. Sometimes it was never coming from a place, a bad place. It was always my passion. I wanted to help people. But sometimes I'm talking to people about, release it, breathe, let go. And some people are sitting with some dark stuff. Yeah. And I was a bit blasé about it. And, people's fears around things. And it was a bit like, I know better. And it was more, I wanted it for people. So I didn't mean to be how, but it was very overpowering about, like, with people sometimes, and like my way is the right way, and it's like that's not what it's about. But again, that was a lesson with it all. But I realised, no, sometimes you can't be pushing people to look at this stuff. Some people are never going to do the inner work, and that's okay, because they've done enough work to get them where they're at, and their lives are changed, and that's not for anyone to come in and say. So sometimes it can come from a place of love that you want it for people, but you've got to be careful.
Yeah.
I can see now in my past I've pushed people too much too soon. I'm including myself, and it got overwhelming.
It's truth, man.
So yeah, definitely. So for you, how long was you in recovery yourself before you started doing like the PT work, working with people?
So I was in recovery a year, did a degree, did a college course, psychology, sociology and criminology, and then I did a degree for 3 years, and then when I left my degree, my last degree course was personal training. It was sport therapy. It's like sports psychology. I said, oh, you wanted to be a PT back in the day? I thought, fuck it then. I'm going to go and try PTing. You know, so I started my PTing company. I did that for a year. And then I said, you know what? I want to work with people. I don't want to just do PTing. I also want to work with people on the more mental health and spiritual side. So I was developing my PTing to try and work in that space more. So more coaching and PTing. You know, it wasn't going too well, but it was doing all right. Then I said, okay, let me work in a rehab. So I went to work in a rehab seasons for 2 years. You know,
I didn't know you were at Seasons.
Yeah, I went there for 2 years, and that helped me. I volunteered there, got a job there, and that helped me get the one-to-one personal skills, interpersonal skills. And COVID came about. Oh, yeah. That sort of, I refused to get the jab, and that was kicking up a bit of a woo 50-50. And then I just get a message: you need to move and give all your PT in a go. You know, and there's also a call in the back of head saying the Coventry, the project I'm working at now, that's calling you as well. But I was like, oh, no. I was kind of in competition with them. Thinking, oh, no, we want to work with the same clients. I've got to be in competition with you.
Yeah.
So I sort of just tried to do my own thing. Did my own PTing again for a while. Still trying to push the mental health bit. Because that's, for me, like you said, man, I can have a great body. I've trained and I still ended up fucked.
Yeah.
I've been in great shape and I still ended up fucked. So I know it's not all about training, just looking good. It's a great, and as you said, if you feel good, you won't want to do the work because you'll be like, everything's all right. Yeah. Why do I need to do any more work? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So that's one of the hardest things with recovery and people that get into start exercising. They get the endorphin fix to feel good hormones from exercising. Then their whole thinking is very more optimistic, which is what we want. But you ain't still figured out that your education, what you think is right, how you've been brought up and how you think you should live hasn't changed. Yeah. And that's what brought you the pain. Yeah. So you look great, but you're thinking about how relationships work. You're thinking around expectations. You're thinking around all these issues, who you are as a human being, what you are. You don't know thyself. Yeah. You know what I mean? But you feel good, so you run around like a headless chicken again. 6 months later, you're back in the same shit.
All the anger, all the reasons there why you used are still there. Yeah. Sometimes it's like, put the drink down, put the drugs down, but the reasons, the pain, the things that made you pick them up, sometimes they can be gone. Yes. The drink and drugs can be gone, but that stuff's still there. So you're still walking around angry, you're still walking around anxious, you're still, it's a difficult, and I think I always say to people, recovery, healing, especially, it doesn't need to be a battle. It doesn't need to be war every day. There's times where, of course, you have got to dig deep. Yes. And you have got to, get that sort of warrior mode on. But it's careful not to stay in that warrior. Like, the warrior can be soft and gentle as well. Come on. And that's a big thing I've had to learn. It doesn't have to be a battle. And when I see people, personally to me, you've not quite done the inner work. It's a battle. It doesn't need to be like that. So I feel for them because I'm like, come on, life can, healing, recovery, it can be happy, it can be joyful. It can
be joyful.
But you can't let the joy in while you're holding on to all the other stuff. You can't have both. It's like, for me, I wanted to keep certain parts of my pain and this, that. And then I was trying to manifest all this stuff into my life and wondering why it weren't coming in. It's like, hold on, you can't have both, Kim. We can't let the love and joy in when you're like that round your heart and blocking. You've got to let that go, and then that can come in. So hopefully more of that starts coming in because I'm surrendering more now.
That's it, and that's what recovery is about. And that's why I love the 12 steps NA and real life, because it's not about the drugs. Yeah. It's about that surrendering that's part of yourself to your true calling. Yeah. And that's scary, isn't it? Yeah, that's that scary stuff. Like, I gotta let that in, I've got to let go of this. Yeah. You've got to surrender. You know what I mean? I've got to surrender. People see surrender as a negative word. It's not. No. It's not. The fight in the battle, that's the negative. That's the negative, yeah. Surrendering is just like, okay, just let it in. But you're going to be letting, like I say to people, you're letting all the love in as well. Letting all the love in. Like, you might be letting that vulnerable sit in. It's going to be uncomfortable for a little bit, some stuff you got to sit with. But also when you've released and learned to let a lot of that go, the hate, the resentment, it could come in. And I think also realising they ain't bad emotions.
like crying and anger is no better emotion than happiness. It just needs to be felt. They all need to be felt.
Yes, they all serve.
So, yeah. Massive thanks, Will, for coming on.
I can talk all day.
We can. We've got to come on for part 2.
Jesus.
I know
that.
I've only just got you onto this, but
Blessings.
yeah, you've got
Thank
to. Because we'll do it as part 1's your story and stuff like that. Because all the stuff, what you're doing now and the talk, that's what I want. And I want to talk more about shadow work.
Shadow work, beautiful,
Yeah. So maybe we'll do one on shadow work podcast.
Cool. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm down for that.
All right. Thanks, Will.
Thank you, Kim. It's been a pleasure, man.
Yeah.